All right, let's talk about choosing your college major. I mean, it's one of the biggest, most expensive decisions you'll ever make, and it often feels like this epic battle between two giants, arts and humanities versus STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and math. So, which path is the right one? Let's dive in and really break down the facts.
And I'm not kidding when I say it's a billion-dollar question, not just for the economy, but for you, personally. We're talking about a massive, massive investment of your time and your money that's going to shape your career, your finances, and even your lifestyle for years, maybe decades to come. The stakes really couldn't be higher. You know, this whole explainer, it was actually inspired by this very request. Somebody out there, probably a lot like you, just wanted the straight goods, the pros and cons, no bias, just the facts. So that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put all the opinions aside and just focus on the data to help you really understand the landscape.
Okay, so let's start with the bottom line. Money. Yeah. Before we can even get to the exciting part about future paychecks, we got to talk about the upfront cost of the degree itself. What's the real price tag on that diploma?
So here's what's pretty interesting when you look at the numbers. The costs, they're often way closer than you'd think. Yeah, on average, a STEM degree might be a little bit more expensive. You know, lab fees, special equipment, that kind of thing. But let's be real. Whether you go to a public or a private university, you're looking at a huge 5 to 6 figure investment either way.
And for most of us, that investment means one thing: debt. Right now, the average student in the US walks across that graduation stage with about $37,000 in loans. And that number, that's a huge part of this whole equation. It's basically your financial starting line the day after you graduate, no matter what your major was.
Okay, so you've made the massive investment. The next logical question is, what's the payoff, right? Let's follow the money.
All right, now this chart, this is the one that gets all the headlines. Right out of the gate, STEM grads on average have a clear, pretty significant salary advantage. And that's because there's such high demand right away for those hard technical skills. We're talking coding, data analysis, engineering. It's a really powerful, tangible advantage, no doubt about it.
But wait a second. If it were that simple, we could end this right here. That starting salary, that's just chapter 1. A career is a marathon, not a sprint right out of college.
And this is so important. When you start looking at mid-career salaries, that big gap we just saw, it can actually shrink a lot. You see, a lot of arts and humanities grads use their skills to move into management and leadership positions, and that's where you see some serious salary growth. And hey, take a look at the job satisfaction rates. They're often pretty darn similar. It's a great reminder that being happy in your work isn't just about the paycheck.
So where does everybody actually end up working? This chart gives us a pretty good idea. I mean, sure, tech and healthcare, you think STEM, right? But they hire tons of arts grads for things like design, marketing, HR, you name it. The creative industries and education lean towards the arts, but they absolutely need tech experts. The lines are blurring everywhere.
And all of this really brings us to a huge part of that original question. What does a decent lifestyle even mean? Because it's about so much more than just your salary, right? It's about the skills you're building and the doors those skills can open for you over your entire life.
See, an arts education is literally designed to sharpen these exact skills. It teaches you not what to think, but how to think, how to break down really complex problems, communicate tricky ideas, and truly get where other people are coming from. And trust me, these aren't just soft skills. These are power skills.
This quote right here, it perfectly captures something we hear from leaders in every single industry. Look, companies know they can teach someone a new piece of software in a few weeks. What's way harder to find and way more valuable is someone who can stare down a problem they have never seen before and figure it out.
And that right there is the whole idea behind transferable skills. In a world where jobs are changing all the time, maybe the most important thing you can have is a set of skills that isn't locked into just one job. Critical thinking, problem solving, communication, these are valuable whether you're a coder, a curator, or a CEO.
Okay, let's zoom out for a minute. The person who asked the original question wanted to know about global trends too. So how does this whole debate in the US stack up against the rest of the world?
And wow, the differences are pretty stark. When you dig into the data, you see that on average, governments outside the US tend to fund the arts a lot more. And yeah, America's tech sector is booming. But the biggest, most glaring difference? The cost of education. It is by a long shot the highest in the world. So when you have lower costs and more public support for the arts, that just completely changes the math for students in other countries.
All right, we've looked at cost,
We've looked at salary, skills, the global picture. So what do you actually do with all this info? Let's try to turn all these facts and figures into a real framework you can use to make your own decision.
And honestly, this is the single most important thing to remember. The whole point of this isn't to tell you pick arts or pick STEM. It's to give you the tools to figure it out for yourself, based on who you are and what you want out of life.
So here's a simple 3-step way to think about it. Step 1, figure out your priorities. What's number 1 for you? Is it a high income right away? Is it pursuing a passion? Or is it making a specific kind of impact on the world? Step 2, be really honest with yourself about your tolerance for financial risk. How much debt are you comfortable with versus your potential earnings? And finally, step 3, define your why. I mean, what's the real reason you're doing this? What's going to motivate you through 4 tough years of school and then a 40-year career?
And I just want to leave you with one last thing to think about. You know, as AI gets better and better at doing all sorts of technical, analytical stuff, what skills are going to become the most valuable? Which path do you think? Arts, STEM, or maybe some combination of the two does the best job of preparing you with those skills that are uniquely and irreplaceably human?